Hello, welcome to another Lazy Guide. Today I am going to be talking about how to easily create a thematic party, specifically encouraging your players to choose thematic choices by manipulating the options a little bit. This guidance kind of focuses on adventure paths, but if you're running a homebrew adventure with a strong theme that you want to keep your players focused on or building around, then this idea can work for that equally as well. I'm going to be using the Outlaws of Alkenstar adventure path because that has a very strong theme to it and will work very well for the example that I'm going to give. So, since this is a lazy guide, we're obviously going to figure out how to do this with the least amount of effort, and I think this is a pretty low effort way of doing this. Basically, we're going to take the free archetype optional rule, and we're going to use that to make sure that everybody builds around the theme that we want them to work on. Free archetype is a pretty popular optional rule, so a lot of people are already using it, a lot of groups have experience with it. What we're going to do is manipulate the pool that they can choose from in order to keep them on a specific theme. So using the example of Outlaws of Alkenstar, we want them to kind of have a steampunky, gunnish aesthetic, mechanics, inventors. If we give them access to free archetype in whatever way they want, then people can of course build some really interesting, cool builds, but they might not be as thematic as you want them to be. Limiting the classes always feels a little harsh when there aren't so many options for that. Of course, some are going to be more useful than others. If you're a group that applies those magic rules with the mana waste, then obviously taking wizards and things won't be as effective. But we don't necessarily want to limit people from doing whatever they want class-wise. That's why we're using free archetype though, because that's a little added extra. And since we're going to tell them which archetypes are available for free archetype at the start of the adventure, it's going to sway them to choose the rest of the build that works with these archetypes. So what archetypes are we going to limit them to? Well, the Guns and Gears book obviously has a lot of synergy with this adventure, so most of those I would make available. I'd also throw in some of the more classic ones from the player core, such as Assassin, Bastion, Linguist, Scout, or Poisoner. Those make sense because people from all walks of life can end up in Alkenstar. Of course, the adventure paths also usually add a few new archetypes, ones that are unlocked in the course of the adventure. Those archetypes I would still keep as things they unlock in the adventure. All that I would do is, as they unlock them, they become available, and if people want to retrain to take those new ones, they of course can do that. In the case of Outlaws, that would be something like Clockwork Reanimist, which lets them create clockwork zombies. There are other archetypes from different books or different adventures which can feel quite suitable as well. Something like the Golem Crafter, for example. By limiting the free archetype options to these specific on-brand choices, you can create a party that feels synergistic, feels relevant to the world and the campaign, and you can also shift them to make sure they're picking things that will actually be useful for the adventure. In my Abomination Vaults game, my party have just faced a disastrous defeat, and I've now opened up free archetype to them mid-campaign and given them a list of options that are going to be absolutely effective at helping them get through this dungeon, and are of course on theme for the Abomination Vaults. Things like Undead Slayer, Ghost Hunter. By the way, this defeat happened in a campaign diary that has not been released yet, so don't worry, you've not missed anything. This approach does work best with newer players, ones who either haven't had free archetype before or would panic at having free archetype opened to them without any limits. Choice paralysis is definitely a thing, and by doing this you're going to actually be helping them make choices without freaking them out completely. Where it might not be best used is in a group that is very experienced veteran players, because they might already have a full build in mind, and by limiting the free archetype options you're going to destroy that build. Although some groups of veterans might like the challenge of being limited. When dealing with these newer players, you can break down the options into some categories. For my Abomination Vaults group, I've split the categories into I want to be able to fight better, I want to learn things better, I want to do more during exploration, and I want to keep my party alive. Now when my characters think about which archetype they want, they think about what they want their character to be good at, and then they can see some more limited options. They will help them take away some of that choice paralysis and not make them have to read through a bunch of archetypes they don't actually care about. That's kind of it for this video. It's a very quick and dirty way of getting your players to stick to a specific theme without actually limiting them on classes or ancestries. I hope you found that useful. If you did, then, leave a like, comment, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. If you want to see my Abomination Vault campaign diaries, they are on the channel. You can find the playlist in the description. And we do also have the tournament going on for the speed running dungeon crawling. You'll find all my links in the description to Discord, Blue Sky, all that stuff. But that is it. So I will love you and leave you. Bye-bye.